Excuse me.
Guests are not allowed out here. Can we have no privacy?
I'm sorry. I know you're busy, but...
Well, go back into the dining hall, sit down, and somebody will be with you soon enough.
I'm not here for that. I've already eaten.
So you're here to complain. Nothing's ever good enough for you Romans.
I'm not here to complain or demand anything. If you would just let me speak.
Well, then do it. Speak, then get out.
My name is Marcus. I worked with your son David, building roads.
Well, I see you're here today, alive and well. Where is my son?
That's what I'm here to speak to you about. I'm so sorry about what happened. The accident.
Accident? What accident kills a dozen Jewish men and not a single Roman?
Sir, David was my best friend. I'm here today in his memory, but I will not stand for accusations of that kind.
Friend? You dare call yourself a friend to a Jew? A murdering, thieving Roman?
I was proud of that friendship until this very moment.
You will not speak of my son in this house. Leave me now.
No, I will have my say, and then I will leave.
Fine.
David told me of his father. He told me of a man who loved his family. He told me of a man who taught his son to love anyone, regardless of who or what they were. He even told me of his God.
God?
And, you know, I had even begun to believe some of what he said about a single God. Adonai, and his love for his people. I can see now that he was wrong about his father. Maybe he was wrong about his God, too.
You will not speak so in this house. Leave me in peace.
I am leaving. And I will honor the memory of my friend David. I'm glad he's not here to see what's become of his father.
To a people in darkness. Come, set us free from the chains we have made. We are your people, the flock that you tend. Lord, open our eyes once again. To the ones broken-hearted, open our eyes. To the plight of the poor, open our eyes. To the innocent children, open our eyes. Teach us compassion and love. To the victims of violence, open our eyes. To the ones who seek justice, open our eyes. To those sitting in prison, open our eyes. Teach us compassion and love. When a color divides us, open our eyes. When the darkness surrounds us, open our eyes. When we choose to look elsewhere, open our eyes. Teach us compassion and love. To those full of life's sorrow, open our eyes. To the needs of the lowly, open our eyes. To the ones who seek peace, open our eyes. Teach us compassion and love. To those suffering illness, open our eyes. To those trapped by addiction, open our eyes. To those lost or forgotten, open our eyes. Teach us compassion and love. Come and bring light to a people in darkness. Come, set us free from the chains we have made. We are your people, the flock that you tend. Lord, open our eyes once again. If you were here last night, you know that John the innkeeper is in pain, suffering from violence, suffering from an anguish that he can't let go. You know that Marcus, the centurion, is at least a little bit of a seeker. Between the scripture and the drama today, we have the stories of three individuals who are touched or impacted by the question that's our theme today. Are you the one who is to come, or should we be looking for someone else? John, poor John the innkeeper, has lost a son. He's a man who knows the prophecies, who taught them to his family, who helped them get the broader vision, the expanded vision of what the Messiah was going to do. And yet, when life events touched him in ways that brought deep hurt and pain, he got rigid. He got stuck with what he knew was going to be the Messiah, what the Messiah was going to do. And he became angry at those who caused his son's death, those he saw as other, those who were the occupying force, those who abused his people. And he couldn't see beyond what he thought he knew. Marcus, the centurion, is somehow a seeker, otherwise he wouldn't have been willing to be friends with David. We don't know all of his backstory. We don't really know who or what he was looking for. But somehow he had been touched by this Jew that probably many of his other compatriots again saw as other. And he began to find new ways of touching base, new ways of making contact. He began to listen, and he began to hear something he hadn't heard before. Heard about a family that was taught to love others. Heard about a God who loved everybody, something he would not have been familiar with. And he was beginning to believe, beginning to think, maybe there's something more, only to find that hope shattered by what he was experiencing at the hands of his friend's father. If he was wrong about his father, maybe he was also wrong about his God. And then there's the story of John the Baptist, Jesus' cousin, who was the forerunner, who had preached about the coming of the Messiah, who had recognized Jesus as something other, something unique, something special, and was calling people to listen to this one who was the one that, as far as he knew, the one they were looking for. And then again, life interfered. John was not afraid to preach what he believed. And because of that, he got in trouble with the authorities. He was preaching against what Herod was doing, against the fact that Herod had killed his brother and married his brother's wife, among other things. And so he was in prison. It wasn't prison like we think of prison today. It wasn't a pleasant place at all. I don't know if you watch biblical movies, but they're probably, some of them, pretty accurate on what it was like to be in those prisons. And John knew that by speaking against the authorities, he was going to die. And at that time, even though he had had a deep faith, even though he had had the tremendous belief in Jesus as the Messiah, he found himself wondering, is this really the one that we were looking for? Or should we be looking for someone else? And so he sent some of his disciples to to raise the question with Jesus so he could have the reassurance that he needed. I think it was down there. I think the foundation was there. But it was like so many of us, when life intervenes, when we find ourselves caught in situations sometimes beyond our control, but situations where we are trapped by violence, trapped by the decisions of others, John found himself doubting. What I find interesting is that Jesus didn't give the disciples a yes or no answer. When they came to him and said, "Are you the one that we should be looking for, or should we be looking for someone else?" Jesus didn't say, "Yes, I'm the one," or "No, you should be looking for someone else." What did he say instead? I like the way the Message happens to say it. Jesus told them, "Go back and tell John what's going on. The blind see, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, the wretched of the earth learn that God is on their side." In other words, open your eyes. See what's going on around you. See how people's lives are being changed for the good. The innkeeper had to, although he wasn't raising specifically that question, it was there. He knew who he was looking for. And when the baby's born, he has to go and trust. Is this baby really the one that they were looking for? Marcus, the centurion, I don't know what happens to him. But does he find what he's looking for? John the Baptist, does he find what he's looking for before he's killed? I think so. I think his disciples come back to him and tell him the blind can see, the crippled can walk, people with skin diseases are healed, the deaf can hear, the dead are raised to life, and the good news is preached to the poor. Yes, look and see what's happening to people. That answer was and is a challenge to us as well. When the Baptist disciples had left Jesus, as usual, there was a crowd around him, and Jesus began to talk to them, telling them, basically, open their eyes as well. He asked them what they'd gone into the wilderness to see when they went to see John, and was saying, yes, John's a great prophet. He is the one who has come to prepare the way. But you're going to have to open your eyes and decide for yourself. Am I the one who is to come? Or should you be looking for someone else? So how were people going to know he was the one? How do people today, how do we know that he was the one that we were supposed to be looking for? Well, according to Jesus, it's by the way we treat others. He brought healing. He brought wholeness. And again, if you come to the drama tonight, or if you were here last night, you'll see how that plays out in the life of the innkeeper. He treated all people, regardless of who they were, as worthy, people of worth, as brothers and sisters, just like Marcus said. He showed the love of this God who loved all of his children, regardless of who or what they are. He still loves all of his children, regardless of who or what we are, or where we've been, or what our life experiences have been. The kingdom that Jesus was preaching was different from the kingdoms that his people knew, different from the kingdom of the world, different from kingdoms that depended on power, that depended on force to say, I'm on top. Jesus' kingdom is a kingdom of love. It's a kingdom that's hard to live in because it's countercultural. It causes us, or it requires us, and hopefully causes us, to look at others with new eyes, to see them through the eyes of a God who cares for them, of a God who loves them, of a God who believes that they are of worth. Are you the one who is to come? Or are we to look for another? As we look around this room, look at each other, we know we have disagreements with each other. Some of those disagreements are theological. Some of them are political. Some of them may be personal. We don't always get along. We don't always agree with each other. But our answer to that question, our calling, is to answer that question by the way we live. If we can let the Spirit of Christ bring healing and wholeness to our relationships, if we can let it help us find ways to work together despite our differences, to bring peace, to bring the shalom, God's love, God's peace that Jesus taught, then if we're able to do that, then we will show that truly this baby, born in a simple stable to a poor couple from a faraway country, to a couple who was looking for shelter in an occupied country, then if we're able to do that, the answer to that question will be yes. That baby did indeed grow into the one that we were and are looking for. May it be so in our lives.